We'll have to figure out what next week is Abbas Abanim or the week after that.
Some places start tonight, but I told my kids the minute is by us. We don't wait. We go after they change the clock.
It's after they change the clock, so it's not even next week. It's the week after.
Well, no, but next week has a din.
Why? But why?
Because you get the extra hour next week.
Is that what it is? I don't know.
I mean, you are when you go to sleep at 12 o'clock tomorrow night. The next week is as if you went to sleep at 11.
I understand that, but I have to confirm.
Yeah, this is one I get. This is one I get an Abbas Abanim in 4 weeks. This is the email I got from Zevi.
Yeah.
Email, but we have been informed that Yitzhak is part of the invading force. They went in on Motzi Shabbos. He is now offline. We don't know more details as of now. We'll keep you posted. Keep davening. May we and all Klal Yisrael see Nisim and the Floyers. Good to work.
Wow. Yitzhak is Rabbaran's grandson, if anybody wanted to know. Yitzhak's not hit. Yitzhak Zevi's? No, yeah. Mendel. Yitzhak
Zevi's first.
I thought it was Mendel's.
No.
I hear. Okay.
Yaakov, you look at a picture and he's a dead ringer for Zevi. You can't make a mistake.
I hear. I do. I've seen pictures. Okay, listen, we're gonna daven and we're gonna learn. We'll say the Tillim after. Okay. Should hear only Pesudas Toivus.
Oh,
thank you for sharing that. It's good. It makes it more of a whatever.
He just sent it. He sent it to me to me and my wife. That's it. He said maybe to in-laws also.
Not to make light of the situation, but Yaakov will remember when the Stein boys went to Eretz Yisrael was the days of fax machines, and every Shabbos they would send faxes back to Uncle Moshe David. He had the fancy fax machine that the paper cut itself, and we were able to read the faxes Shabbos afternoon.
Yeah, well, we've moved on to bigger and better things, right?
Right, you remember that, Yaakov?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. That's a nerve-wracking thing, though, to do this. That's a nerve-wracking thing. Yeah. Okay. We should only hear Pesudas Toivus. Okay, so Zok the Mishnah. Yeah. So we already did a chunk on Friday. Yeah. We're continuing.
Where are you starting from?
Mishnah Ayin Vav Amid Aleph.
Zok the Mishnah.
Zok the Mishnah. Correct. Yeah. So Anoise Isha Kehenes. Oh, we got our minion. Look at that. We just got the minion. Okay. So Hanoise Isha, now we could obviously we're continuing with the Yichus and all the Yichus issues. So Hanoise Isha Kehenes. If a guy's marrying an Isha who's a Bas Kohen, right? So now Tzarich Livdak Achareh, you need a little bit of math. You need a little bit of math what do you call it? Abilities. You need to check after her for Arba Imahos, which is quite interesting. That is, we're in the middle of the Arba Imahos sugya, right? I mean, whatever the parsha is. Arba Imahos Shein Shmoina. You have to check into the mothers, 4 mothers, but really it's 8 mothers. How? Ima, you have to check into her mother. Aim Ima, you have to look into her mother's mother. The Aim Avi Ima, and you have to look into the mother of her mother's father, Ve'im Avia Ve'ima, and the mother of her father and her mother. Ve'im Avi Avia Ve'ima, and the mother of her father's father and her mother. Right? So, okay, basically you have to check up 2 generations, right? And in order to make sure that everything was all right. But so here we have a little bit of machlokes. So Rashi says that this is what are we trying to prove here? Well, what is he checking the yichus for? He's marrying a Bas Kohen. So the question, so Rashi says, you're checking with them in order to make sure that they're not mamzerim. That the third Rashi in the Mishnah says we're checking for mamzerim. So if that's the case, so then why Bas Kohen? Any woman you should check, make sure she's not right. So Taisus brings, it's not about, so it must not be about mamzer, because then it would apply to everybody. Taisus disagrees and says it's talking about halala. You want, if you're a kohen, right? Why is it a kohen wants to marry a bas kohen, wants to make sure she's not a chalal. If she's a halala, then the kohen's kids are going to be messed up. So that's what it is. Okay, so that's a machlokes. That's a machlokes. Rishonim how to understand this Mishnah. Fine. Vayter Mishnah Levi Yisraelis. If somebody wants to marry the daughter of a Levi or a Yisrael, then my sifan alein oidachas. Then you have to go up another generation, meaning not you don't have to do only the mothers. You also have to do the mothers' mothers, which will then get you up to 12 women that you have to investigate. Right? Yeah, so that's now, well, why do you have to go up one more generation? So now we're going to see in the Gemara. Yeah, fine. Then, if you don't have to check from the Mizbeach and up, meaning if you find out that one of these girls that he's looking into for Shidduchim, right, knew that the Kohen, not only was he a Kohen, but he was a Kohen that actually was on top of the Mizbeach, meaning he was in the action. You don't have to be by to get him. Clearly, he was a kosher Kohen, and she comes from a kosher Kohen. And if it's a Levi, believe it or not, the duchening is for Leviim, not for Kohanim, meaning the Leviim still, it's lamashal, I mean, lahavdil, the bandstand. A duchen is a band. The duchen means like a stand. So if you know that the Levi, that she had parents or whatever, grandparents that were Leviim, who actually sang or played instruments, then that means that's an automatic haskama, that there was nothing wrong with the yichus. And if you know that one of the grandparents was in the Sanhedrin, grandfathers, and anybody else, he was a hilchsik rabbis, he was shaiter rabbim, he was a shaiter, literally means a policeman, right? But l'chayra means, somebody that's in a position of some sort of power. And a gabbai tzedakah, which we'll see in the Gemara also, if a guy's a gabbai tzedakah, he must have impeccable yichus, right? So then masi and the kahuna, then you're allowed to marry them off the kahuna, but ain't tzarich livdak acharein, you don't have to check after them at all, right? Because that's considered like they already have good yichus.
See, Yaakov.
Yeah.
If I've told you this before, but it's just mamish apropos to the Mishnah. When the Rabbi Yoelish was nifta, so that day by the Levaya, so he was the first person buried in the Beis HaChaim there. So they were collecting money, pidyon nefesh. So they kept on announcing on the loudspeaker the whole day, every Baal Mishpacha should give at least chai dollar, right? But every time they made the announcement, it was mamish the whole day, every hour, maybe more. They said, to make sure you give l'chachik $18, but only give it to Gaboyim that you know. That was part of the announcement. Yeah, every time. Because they know their own people, they're big Balei Chesed, but they know their own chevra. Yeah.
Wow, I think people are saying that even now about the matzah.
Probably.
People collecting.
Probably.
Make sure you know who you.
Probably.
Yeah. Anyway, so a gabbai tzedakah is considered trustworthy. You're right, but if he appoints himself a gabbai tzedakah, might not be the most. Like he asked him who appointed you. Right. Yeah, so that's that whole list. If the guy or the girl really can show, hey, look at my grandfather's yichus, he was once an aide in the old courts in Tzipori, then that's also considered a good yichus, because there they only accepted aidim that had good yichus. Oh, here you go. This is in Yonah de Yoima. If he's in the army, in the king's army, then it's considered also a good yichus. Right? So Mamela, you're in the army, that's a good yichus, and therefore you don't have to check after the kids.
It's not talking to voice Hashem, right? What's that mean? What does it mean, the army?
It says the army of the king.
Yiddish army, or does it mean the American
obviously
army?
It means the Yiddish. Obviously, it means the Yiddish army and the army of the king, not Stam. Army of the king. Now, who the king is? You want to say the king is Hashem? The king is we'll wait till the bottom of the next Talmud. We'll see what the Gemara says. Yeah. Okay. So again, the Mishnah is saying that if you're looking into a Bas Koyin, you got to check the four mothers, which really means them and their mothers. If you're checking into a Levi of Yisraelis, you have to even check even more, right? And then there's a whole list of those that are considered automatic pass. They have an automatic pass. So how come? Why are you checking only the yichus of the mothers? What happened to the yichus of the father? We don't care about the fathers, right? So Gemara gives a fascinating answer. Nashi, when women fight with each other, they're gonna fight with arayas, meaning one lady's gonna say, "Oh yeah, well you sleep around with so and so," and the other lady's gonna say, "You sleep around with so and so," right? So that truth will come out, but that we don't know about yichus. Vim isa deika milsa. So if there's going to be, even if there would be something wrong with her yichus, lo isla kala, there's going to be no call about it because the women don't care about that. When they fight with each other, if they know that one was messing around with another one, so then that's what they're going to say. They're going to publicize that. The yichus doesn't really bother them. Gavri, but men, when men fight with each other, they're going to fight with each other with yichus. Meaning one's going to say, "Oh yeah, well your mother was married to a nasin or to a mamzer or to a this or to a that." So Isa Ika Milsa, and if there would be something with the guy's yichus, islay kala, it would come out, and people would know about it. So Mamela by men, really. So the Gemara is saying, man, you really have to worry about the yichus too. But if there's no rumor out there about the man's yichus, then there's no concern because there must not be any negatives about his yichus because otherwise it would come out. I don't know. Can you explain to me this? Here's another feather in the cap of that our door is a pretty good door. I'm saying what? It sounds like the default is that people are going to constantly be fighting with each other. So much so that we assume that negatives are going to come out about anybody. What kind of chazaka is that? That, it must be, we don't have any rumors about that his yichus is wrong. So it must be because everybody fights with each other. Right, so if everybody fights with each other, it's going to come out that he has a bad yichus. It comes out that he doesn't have a bad yichus. That means that he's okay. Why don't we say, well, maybe they're just not a fighting type, and maybe that's why the yichus doesn't come out. All right, so it's an interesting thing. We're assuming that men fight, women fight. The men are going to say they're going to fight with each other. They're going to say yichus things. So maybe if there's no rumor about this guy's yichus, then he's okay. Right?
It could be we're a very young community in America. We only have so many generations over here, even though I have quite a few. But if you go back 1,000 years, you had, or 2,000 years, you had the person who knew 10, 15 generations back in the same location. But we've been bounced around from Europe to Hawaii, to America, to Hawaii, whatever. And so we don't have that. We don't have so much yichus. I mean, we don't have a connection to so many doiras, and it could be that's. But if we had, we've been living in the same place for 200-300 years, 400 years. So then maybe we'd have a.
Okay, maybe
we know each other's yichus then, but we don't. So
maybe
America's
that's why we're a melting pot. You're saying America's a melting pot.
Harvey Oppenheim, I remember Harvey Shalom told me that his mother's family lived in the same town in Germany for 800 years, till Mulchama.
Wow.
Yeah, they must have had some good conversations.
Well, I'm saying, I'm saying something else. I'm saying that it seems like the default is that people fight and rank each other out about you're Mazana with this one, you're Mazana with this one, and the men are busy fighting about each other's you. That's all I'm saying is that, like, what kind of proof is that?
I don't know. I think it's kind of which I think because we're removed from it, or because I'm removed from it, I find it very strange. But
it is. I understand. Nobody's fine. Every dialogue's quiet on this one. I don't understand.
Oh, it's interesting. And actually, it might be a general rule because in Hawaii they fight over who's the ali'i, means who's from the royalty, and they have stupid things to fight about. But
Maybe
the
it's
youngster
similar
next to me, so I
thing.
can't
They go
comment.
back 700 years.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just a strange. I don't know. To me, it's a strange thing. So based on fighting, we can start giving people yichus briefs. Imagine you call up the shop to the lake and you're trying to get a shidduch for your daughter, and you say, by the way, in all my fighting I did by every kiddush, every fight, nobody ever said that my father married a mamzer or mamzera, so therefore he got good yichus, right? Okay, gesundheit. Fine. I don't know. Anyway, so weiter. So v'ihi nami tivdoik beibedi day. So this is a different kasha. The first kasha was, how come you're only checking the girl's yichus for her mother's? What about the girl's yichus from her father's? So it's saying if there was a bad yichus because of all the fighting people do, we would know about it. Good. Now, how come she doesn't have to check her husband's yichus? Why is it only that the guy is checking out the girl's yichus? Why isn't the girl checking out the guy's yichus? Two different kashas, right? V'ihi nami tivdoik beibedi day. Why doesn't she check out his shidduchim, his yichus Messiah Leila Rav? So this is a proof to Rav, who we had a few times already. The reason is very simple. Kosher girls can marry puzzle. There's no concern. Kosher kayin, or let's say it's a machlokes Rashi Taisis, exactly what we're talking about here. But let's say it's going with cholol. So for a kayin, it's an issue. A female kayin has no problem marrying a male cholol. So therefore, there's no reason for her to check into the yichus. Shilas, how does Rashi learn this? Right? So okay, whatever. That's a whole tumor. Fine. Rav had said he learned. So Mishnah says you have to check into 4 mothers. That's really 8. Rav said you got to check into 4 mothers. It's really 12. The Masnisa Tana in a Braisa, it said Daladi Mois Shem Shisha Shem Sheshesre. 4 mothers, which is really 16 mothers. So what's going on here? Bishlam the Ravada Barawan on to Mabeis now. Maikimla Bilevio Bas Yisrael. So 12 is the Levio Bas Yisrael, right? Because the Mishnah said that when you're checking into the daughter of a Kayan, so you have to check into 4, which is 8. And then we said that if it's a Levia and a Yisraelis, you got to check into 1 more generation. So therefore add on 4. Elamas Nisa, Nema, Pliga. Let's say our Mishnah is disagreeing with our Mishnah. You have to check even more. So it says, Loi, my oid achas, zug achas. When it says another set, meaning you want to marry a Levi Yisrael, you have to go on to another. It doesn't mean 4. It means 2. Zug achas means 2 mothers, not 4. Right? Meaning you have 4 women that they have to check into even for Kehanim, and then the 4 mothers of them, which then is, and then the mothers of those mothers, so that gets you 16, right? So that's the Bryson, right? So basically they're both saying that you're gonna go up to 16 for a Levia and the Israelis. Okay, what's with this din lamaisa? Do you know anybody that checks into yichus up 2 generations? Some Rabbi Yehuda Rav, and this we also had a few blot ago on Rabbi Yehuda Rav. Meaning the mission is going according to Rav Meir. The Chachamim say kol mishpachos becheskas kashrus heinoim dois. Every mishpacha has a chazaka that they're kosher, and mamela there's no checking. There's no checking, right? And this is the way we pass. We pass like this, even though 5 blot ago we had said this, and the Gemara brought a list of Amayroyim who don't paskin like this, and they paskin like Rameir, and the Gemara says afilu hachi. This is the way we paskin, that you don't have to check into people's yichus. Fine. Where I ask any v'amar Rav Chama bar Guri amar Rav mishasenu kishakara love ir. The Mishnah is talking about, meaning when do you have to check into the woman? That's when somebody is making a macha, right? But if somebody's not making a macha, then you don't have to check into it. So we said a couple of blot ago that a macha means two eidim come and say that this girl or her mother is a mamzeres or a halala, right? So meaning they're not saying how, they're just saying they know. So if they said they know for a fact and they saw the znus, there's nothing to talk about. She's considered a mamzeres. They're saying that they know about it. So since they know about it, that's strong enough that, okay, you better go look into the yichus. Right? So there's where the chachamim, and then the chachamim would agree to that. Right? So, but otherwise, but then how are you saying that the chachamim disagree? Right? So the Gemara says, "Man de masniha lo masniha," because then these are both in the name of Rav. Right? We said that the Rav says Allah goes with the chachamim, and then the Mishnah, and he's saying the Mishnah is not the chachamim, and then he seems to be saying the Mishnah would be chachamim. So we say, well, whoever learned this one of Rav did not learn that one, meaning there's two different members as a machlokes of what Rav said, of whether the chachamim disagree. Another version of this, all families are cheskes kashrus, and Amar Rav Chama Bar Guya Amar Rav, and Karel of Irer, if somebody comes and makes a complaint, and tzarich livdek acharel, then you have to check into her. Right? So here there's no, according to this Igad Amri, there's no machlokes over what Rav said. Right? Everybody holds that the Mishnah is going with a mayor. Right? But this that the Chachamim say that they that sometimes that the Chachamim require you to check into it, that has nothing to do with our mission. That's an independent thing. Okay, bottom line is that we paskin, as we know, because we don't look into anybody's yichus. I mean, at least legit yichus we don't look into, right? So that we paskin that you don't have to. Everybody has a chesed kashrus. Fine. Then the Mishnah says, the last thin line here, ain't biting him in the mizbeach al. If somebody worked on the mizbeach, a kohen actually worked on the mizbeach, there's no checking into him. My timer, ilav de batkua, lo have a maskile. If they wouldn't have checked into him, they would never let him go up to the mizbeach. So mamela, if the grandfather worked on the mizbeach, then there's no yichus issues. Fine, and same thing with the duchen. If the Levi goes up, right, there's no issue. My timer. Because the yichus, the people that the kohanim who had yichus, and the Levim who had yichus, that's where they stayed on the duchen. So therefore, if she had proof that her grandfather was in the duchen, then they're fine. But like Sanhedrin ulamala, same thing. If somebody's in Sanhedrin, my timer, what's the reason? The same way Bezdin are menuka, are clean with tzidkis, they're clean from any type of mum, which we're learning means a mum of yichus. What's the pasuk? So the pasuk says, "Kulach yafa rayasi umum ein bach." You're all beautiful, and there's no mum on you. Okay, so then want to ask the pasuk the kasha, mamish. Maybe in order to be in Sanhedrin, you couldn't have a mum. Who says mum is talking about yichus? Maybe mum is talking about a physical mum, that if a guy is missing an arm, let's say, he can't be on the Sanhedrin. And they're going to stand there with you. Imach b'daimim, meaning imach with Moshe Rabbeinu. The Sanhedrin is going to sit there with Moshe Rabbeinu. Imach b'daimim, similar to you. So we know that just like Moshe Rabbeinu is without a mum, so too we know that the Bezdin also has to be without a mum. So they were doing Mishum Shechina. Maybe the reason why they have to have
Yaakov,
yeah.
We know that about Moshe Rabbeinu, but didn't his daughter accuse him of all unbelievable things? Rashi always brings right. I mean, so Father Israel accused him of all kinds of things.
Correct, but that's not a. I mean, I don't think they yeah, but
I
not
don't know
equal.
what they did. I mean,
Yeah, but that's okay. And but I don't think it was a yichus issue. Right?
Okay.
The
Yeah.
chara was not. Yeah. I don't know if they would have done a shidduch with him, but I was wondering that Moshe had a stutter, right, or whatever his speech impediment was. That not a mum? I guess not.
That's what I thought the Gemara was coming from. The Gemara is trying to prove that it doesn't mean a mum mamish; it means mum b'yuchzit.
Correct.
So Moshe Rabbeinu, we know had a physical mum, but he had no mum b'yuchzit. That's the raya.
Right. So what are you saying?
Your kasha is exactly what the Gemara is saying. He had a mum. We don't care about a mum. We want to know that the pasuk's talking about a mum b'yuchzit. That we know.
Right,
Moshe
but
Rabbeinu
we're
didn't
saying
have.
we already know that they don't have a mum because they're supposed to be similar to Moshe Rabbeinu, who didn't have a mum.
No, I'm not. I wasn't learning the Gemara that way. I was learning the Gemara's using Moshe Rabbeinu as a way of proving what this pasuk means.
Oh no, I
This
thought no,
pasuk
we already
can't
know.
mean a mum.
Oh,
We don't care about a mum, a physical mum, because of
oh,
Moshe
I
Rabbeinu.
hear. I was learning the other way. They were saying we already know it from. We already know mum, but you're saying okay, then it's
Yeah,
eliminating
but
the
you're
first
kasha,
pasuk.
but he did. Yeah.
Right. Well, I don't know if that's considered a mum. Maybe it's not considered a mum. A guy has a stutter is considered a mum.
Well, I don't know if you're saying that it should mean a mum for kahuna in the Sanhedrin. Why would I care about that?
I don't know. I think you're right. It's talking about that. It's just clarifying that Moshe didn't have a mum of yichus, so didn't have a mum of yichus either. Okay.
It didn't by Kabbalah Satira, by sort of the reverse over there that everybody died and came back and it was and all the person was crippled, was not crippled, he's blind and not blind. So the stutter would have gone away then too. So by Moshe Rabbeinu. So that stutter that he had was not that anyway. That was a moon that came from outside and it got burnt. But
Right.
but outside of that, he must have been misrapa from that,
Right.
just like everybody else. So it wasn't permanent.
Okay. I hear. Could be. I don't know. Right. Anyway, yeah. I don't even know. I don't think it would be a mum anyways. Okay. Right. So maybe back then you can't bring a raya because the Sanhedrin sat in the Beis Hamikdash. So they're sitting over there with the Shechina. You got to make sure you have no yichus issues. But your Sanhedrin later on wouldn't have an issue. It's going to make it easy for you, right? And they're going to help you out. Again, so therefore it means that they have to have anybody with the Sanhedrin having nothing to do with the Shechina. Right? Yeah, fine. Call me, then the next one is call me shows about if the fathers were considered shaitrim of the rabbim. The Maimer of the Gemara said, do you say that you don't appoint anybody who's puzzled to a leadership position? Or a minhag ask you everybody's kosher to be a dayan in dinim mamas, not everybody's kosher to dayan dinim fashos. What's that called to include? It's coming to include a mamzer. Right? So you see, a mamzer could be a dayan. So in Yerushalayim, you couldn't be a mamzer. Now, I don't know, does that mean halachically in Yerushalayim couldn't be a mamzer? Or does it mean that in Yerushalayim they had a thing that their dayanim shouldn't be mamzerim? Doesn't sound like it's a halachic thing. It just sounds like mini Yerushalayim, right? You have mini yeshivas, mini Yerushalayim. Mini Yerushalayim is that a mamzer can't be a dayan. So therefore, if a girl comes and says, "Oh, my grandfather was a dayan in Yerushalayim," say, "Oh, it must be, he's not a mamzer." Right? This is the Kiddushin B'Bei Levi means that in the sugyas and Kiddushin that B'Bei Levi he what do you call it? He gathered, so also be Yerushalayim. It means Yerushalayim. Fine. The Gabet Tzedakah Masiyim. So about Gabet Tzedakah also we can marry. My time Akima demands about the inchi. Since a Gabet Tzedakah fights with people, right? It just shows you how unpleasant the job of Gabet Tzedakah is, right? He fights with people. People tell him, "I'm not giving you money." He's got to fight back at him. They can go, meaning this is obviously talking about when back then was control over cities, and you can mamish require everybody to give tzedakah. So a gabbai tzedakah will go to a guy's house and take a mashkin, even on Erev Shabbos. You can go to the guy's house and take his leichter to say you got to give the tzedakah, right? Vafilu on Erev Shabbos, v'im isa the ika is like kala, and if there would be something wrong, there would be a call, like we said before. If a gabbai tzedakah had a problem with his yichus, you know good and well he comes Friday afternoon to try and to collect, and the guy doesn't give it, and he takes something of value from the guy's house. You can be darn right that he's going to announce in shul that this mamzer took his stuff. And if nobody says that about him, then it must be he's not a mamzer. Again, it's like this. It's this backwards proof. You go to that. Oh, you ask somebody shidduchim information. You say, let me tell you something. The guy is such a jerk, the guy's father, that if he was a bad yichus, somebody would have said it, right? So it must be as yichus. Okay, I don't know. I'm struggling with this. Fine. Then the Gemara says, there we got a story. The host, the Ushpezina means the hotel owner, right? Of Rav Ada Barava was a ger, and he was fighting with Rabibi. He said, I'm going to be a sar in the city, meaning I'm going to run for office. I'm going to run for office in the town. So also came to Rabbi Yosef. They came for Rabbi Yosef to decide who should be the one to run. So we learned, you should make a melech from amongst your brothers. Right? Anybody that you are appointing should be from your brothers, which means a ger is not a brother. Right? From here is muchach that it's not, the guy himself wasn't a ger. It's got his father he was a kid of a ger. So he's saying, listen, you're a ger, so you're not one of the brothers. Again, the kasha is how does this fit into v'haftam es a ger that it says 12 times in the Torah that you have to do, and then you're telling him, by the way, we love you, but
maybe this is showing love. Because tell you what, stay away from the government.
Maybe Taka. Maybe. I'm not saying you think the United States government's so crazy that they only allow somebody who's born in the United States to be a president, right? That's the law, right?
Yeah, that's right. So
it's not so far-fetched that a ger, an American United States ger cannot be president. Maybe that's where they get it from. I don't know. Right? So Amrale Rav Ada Barava Vafilu Imay mi Yisrael, and this is even if his father's a ger, but his mother's a Yisrael. Amrale Imay mi Yisrael mikarav chachakrina be. He says no. If the mother is a yid, then he's considered a yid. Hilkach Rabibi the Gabra Rabba Hava. So then he said, Rabibi, who's a Gabra Rabba, le'ayin v'mili d'shmaya. He should be in charge of the how do you call mili d'shmaya, spiritual. He should be in charge of the towns, the shuls and the minyanim, etc., etc. Umar layin v'mili d'masa, and the son of the ger should be in the mundane, right? The mundane parts of the town. So Rabbi Hilkoch man the mystery tzur and the Rabbanan b'shvus. So there was a very nice compromise. So that's what Rabbi says. Somebody who takes a Talmud Chacham in his hotel or to live with him, la'ashrik Rav Ada Barava. He have somebody chashuv like Rav Ada Barava. The yodel mahafich lebeskuse. He'll know how to turn it around for you in his chus. Meaning, because he had this Talmud Chacham staying in his hotel or his whatever it was that he was staying in, he was able to help this ger get at least some form of job. Fine. Rav Zera matapel b'hu. Rav Zera would be matapel with gerim, right? Meaning, and he would let them have positions of power. Rav Ravua matapel b'hu. And Rav Ravua would also be Rava, but in Eretz Yisrael, afilu reish kuri loy mukmei benayo. Then not only didn't they appoint gerim, they didn't even let him be in charge of the measurements, right? Isn't there a weights and measurements cabinet post, right? They wouldn't even let him have that. In Narda, they didn't even let a ger be in charge of who gets the water access to their fields, right? They didn't have a steady water access. They had to share it, so they had to give it out. So they wouldn't even let him be in charge of that, right? Okay. So however you understand pshat in that. Rabbi Yossi says that even somebody who was an aide in Tzipori, in the old courts in Tzipori, is considered miyuchas. My time, they look there. They didn't use aidim unless they checked into their yuchas. Chanina ben Antigonus, right? So he had said even the army. Right? He said even somebody's in the king's army. This actually is negeya now. It's talking about the army from Beis David. They owned in Beis David. They only took our soldiers with yichus. Rashi says that they went month by month. It was like a rotation, like miluim. They had some some soldiers 1 month and they were replaced. Amar Yosef Mikra, what's the pasuk? That they needed yichus v'his yachson batzava b'milchama. Right, and it was their yichus in the army, in the war. The time of Mai, why do they have to have yichus? Amar Yudah Marav, Kadesh Days Chusa Yuschusa Vaisam B'Sayasan. Oh, you hear what it's saying? Rabban is mamash negay. They have the schus that he should have a schus of us. Right? He has the schus of us, and that they wanted dafka soldiers with yichus, with a good yichus, so that it should be for them for a schus, that they should be that it should help them. So Gemara says, in the army was Tzelek Hamoini, who was from Ammon. Much less, I mean, he couldn't even marry into Klal Yisrael. My love, the Asim Ammon doesn't Tzelek Hamoini mean he came from Ammon. So how was he in David HaMelech's army? Loi the Yosef Ammon. No, he just was from Ammon. He was a Yid who lived in Ammon. Okay, but Ika Uriah Achiti, right? My love, the Asim Meches. Wasn't he from Ches? Says Loi the Yosef Beches. Also, he lived in Ches. Ika Itai Hagisi, who was Itai Hagisi, who was from Gas. Right, we're going to say it in the Tillim, who obviously wasn't a Jewish place. We're going to say that he lived in Gas. Hagisi, Upatla. Right, Gisi came and it was Mavatal, the Getchka, right, the idol. That there was a idol. I don't remember the exact story. But whatever it is, Isi came and is mavatal. The din is that if there's an avodah zarah and you want to start benefiting from it, so a guy has to come and knock out the avodah zarah. But only a guy could do it. A yid can't go smash the avodah zarah. Maybe it still has whatever you would call the holiness, whatever you want to call it. But if a guy comes and is mavatal the avodah zarah, then it works. So Iti Agisi came and he was mavatal the avodah zarah. So clearly he was a guy. That's one kasha. But Arba Meis Yeladim Hayulay David. David HaMelech had 400 kids, right? But Kulam B'nei Yefas Toyer Hayu, another hard one to understand, right? David had 400 kids from Yefas Toyers. Yefas Toyers were not Jewish, right? But Kulam Mistaprim Kume, they all had haircuts in the front, and Magadim Bloiders Hayu, and then they grew ponytails in the back. That's how you knew that they were David HaMelech's kids. From the Yefas Toyers. And they all sat in wagons made out of gold. And they rode at the, in these gold things at the top, in the front of the army. And they were considered a groifim, Shalbeis David. They were all, a fist. An egrov is a fist. They were like the strong men of David's army. So you see clearly. And they're goyim. That's from Yefas Toya, or Gerim goyim, whatever, however you want to understand it. So how were they in David HaMelech's army? So Gemara says the Azli the Buusei Alma. They weren't really in the army. They were the decoy. Right? They went in there to scare the other armies. Like, oh, look at these strong guys with gold chariots, and we better. And they looked like goyim. Right? So Mamela, well, they were. So Mamela, since they would put a fear into the other armies that they mamish looked like that. So that's why. But other than that, the real armies of David HaMelech had to have yichus, so it should be a schus for them. Yeah. So that's yeah. Okay. We'll stop here. We'll say the Tillim now. Yeah. Pay Gimel again, yeah. Okay, I mean the whole Pay Gimel, by the way, in case anybody hasn't figured it out, is all about all the countries going against Klal Yisrael and asking Hashem to wipe them out. That's basically the gist of it. Right, there's a whole list of the countries in the middle here. Yeah, let's see. Shir Mizmar Lo Asaf, Elim Al Damilach, Al Techerash, Val Tishkoit El. Ki Hine Oivecha Yemayin, Misanecha No Surosh, Al Amcha Yarimu Soid, V'Yisrael Tzval Tzunecha. Amru L'chu Ben Akchidem Migoy, V'lo Yizrach Shem Yisrael Oid. Ki No Yetzu Levi Achtav Alecha Bris Yichroisu. Olei Edom V'Yishmaelim, Moyom V'Hagrim. Gvol V'Amolik Peleshes Im Yoshvei Tzar. Gam Asher Nilva Imam Hayuzreya Levnei Loit Sela. Aselem Kemidyon Kisisra Kiyavin Benachal Kishon. Nishmedu Ve'ein Dar Hayudaim La Adama Shisema Nidivema Ki Oire V'Chizev V'Chizev V'Chitamuna Kol Nisichema Asher Amru Nir Shalonu Eis Nois Elihim Elihai Shisema Kagalgal Kekash Lifnei Ruach Ke'esh Tevar Yar Uchalava Salait Harim Kein Tir Defem V'Sarecha V'Sufascha Sivalem Malef Neim Koloim Yivak Shishimcha Adonai Yivashu V'Volo Adeyad V'Yachbaru V'Yevedu V'Yedu Ki Ata Shimcha Adonai Levadecha El Yoin Al Kol Haaretz. All right, a good vach, a good yar. We should only hear B'sudas Tavis.
Avshalom was
Okay.